first and foremost, if you want to do this, you have to like humans, and you have to understand what motivates them and what they're trying to accomplish.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Craft Podcast. I'm Veronica, and I'm here with my co-host, John.
And I'm John. And we are joined today by our guest, Mike Field, Portfolio Manager, Bank of America Private Bank. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me here. Nice to meet you too, Veronica.
And where are you calling?
Awesome.
Where are you calling from?
So I'm currently, I almost said stationed, but give away my Army background. But I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
Awesome.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So the first question we always ask our guests is, what is your craft?
So I am a portfolio manager, which means I manage investments for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, families, and relationships.
Can you talk a bit about how that is there? I remember when I was in my MBA program, there was essentially like three things that typical MBAs go for in finance. One was like investment banking, one was equity research, and one was private wealth management. Can you tell us how portfolio management differs from that?
So I'm part of private wealth management. I'm the investment part of it. So I work within a team. Here at the private bank, we use like a team approach. So all I focus on is investment management. I'm not necessarily like chasing down new prospects. I definitely help with the process, but I'm also not doing the day-to-day banking activities that come along with a lot of these clients. I'm not worried about their credit cards or their savings accounts and checking accounts or their mortgages. We kind of do like a holistic relationship with the client. So we wrap a team around them. We have a trust officer who helps them with estate planning and things like that, helps administrate if they have a trust, administrates that, helps them manage that, deals a lot with laws and things like that. But I focus solely on investment management. I just worry about the investments in their portfolio, and that's all I worry about.
And can I ask, I know we're going to dig in more about your craft, but is this what you wanted to be when you grew up? Were you dreaming of joining investment management? How did you get into this?
So this is a long story.
We've got time.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I'll go way back. I'll go way back to when I was a teenager out of high school. I went to college, and my grandfather paid for college. And I didn't go to a great school. I just started out at community college because I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody in my family ever went to college. We didn't know what college was really. But I started going to college. This was like late 1989. And I did terrible. It was horrible. It was a disaster. And I carried a lot of guilt, for a lot of years because my grandfather paid for this. And I pretty much just kind of, I don't know what the word is, like took a piss on him basically. and I felt bad, because I really respected my grandfather. I knew I wanted to do something in finance. And a lot of that was because of my grandfather. He kind of taught me about stocks when I was a little kid, and he owned a lumber company, and he sold it around the same time when I was starting to go to college. And it was really interesting how, he sat down with the bankers, and they were trying to figure out if he should take a lump sum or a series of payouts with some balloon payments, to buy out his shares when he was retiring. And it was really fascinating and interesting. And I wanted to do something in finance. What exactly, I didn't know. So I worked construction for a little while after my college disaster. And it didn't take me long to master that craft. I was putting in ceilings, and I wanted to go back to school. I didn't want my grandfather to pay for it. So here comes the Army, right? I joined the Army. I was going to do 4 years in the Army, get out, get my money for college, go to school, and, go into finance. Doing what exactly? I wasn't sure. So I did about 3 years in the Army. Turns out I was really good at it. I really enjoyed it. Truth be told, if I could maintain my, 20-something-year-old body forever, I probably wouldn't be in finance now. I probably would have stayed in the Army forever. But after 10 years in the Army, you start to rack up some injuries. I had a pretty good one. The other thing too that kind of brought me back to finance was a great financial crisis. you get a lot of mentors. Like I consider John a mentor, actually. I know him from the Army, if you guys didn't catch on to that yet. But, a lot of my mentors were retiring from the military, and they couldn't get a job at Walmart, and they're like, I talked to them and they're like, hey, Mike, you need to go to school because there's nothing out here if you don't go to school. So I started pecking away at it. I finished my bachelor's degree in 2012 while in the military. And I was kind of looking around after that, and I knew John was going to NYU at the time. And I called him. I'm like, hey, I have 4.5 years left in the military, whatever it was at the time. What should I do? I'm interested in finance. What should I do to, I got this time. And he said, well, he's like, you should go for this thing called the CFA. And I'm like, well, what's that? I don't know what that is. Never heard of that before. And he's like, well, the best way to explain it to an Army guy is it's the Ranger tab of finance. He's like, if you get that, he's like, automatic street cred. Everybody will know that you're legitimate. They won't question you, if you know what you're doing. They'll know that you know what you're doing. If you're in the Army, that's kind of what the Ranger tab means. You can see somebody with a Ranger tab, like, oh, they know what they're doing. You can send them out off, into the woods and they'll be okay. So that kind of set me off in that journey. So that's what I did. I did a master's program at Creighton University. I had to find an online program because I was in the woods of Germany. I couldn't go to NYU. But I thought the master's program would be important. It wasn't important though. Nobody cared about them. I could have got an MBA. Nobody cared. The CFA was the thing that set me apart from everything else. But so that started me on the CFA program, and I was fortunate that I was able to pass all 3 levels the first time. That's not easy to do. But before I got out of the military, I was able to pass all 3 levels. And so I came out of the military with, I didn't have the experience, but I could say I passed all the exams. So that really kind of got me to where I am today. Told you it was a long story.
No, that's great.
No.
I have to follow up on this because, Veronica or the other people who know me, usually, I'm like an overachiever. I try to, collect all the certificates, badges, degrees, whatever. And this one was just so hard. Like I'm gonna pull up some pass rates. So February of this year, the pass rate for level 1 was 44%, and then level 2 is 55, and level 3 is 56. Now, even if that was a low, even though that seems like a low kind of passing rate, it's actually even harder because the people you're competing against,
they've done it 2 or 3 times.
They're taking, so I think honestly, I don't even know how many times I failed. I think I seriously might have failed like 3 times and I gave up. And by the way, you don't just like fail, like this is thousands of dollars, right? You pay thousands of dollars to get the books. Like I paid thousands of dollars for a training, like in New York from like some Wall Street firm who trained people on this. I had to study like seriously like hundreds of hours. I think I've put more effort into this thing that I never even got. So take that as an example. And then like Veronica knows, we hire a lot of veterans at Amazon. We hired 10 in a row, which is amazing. And whether it's through the program we hire them through or any other kind of military recruiting program I've been involved in the last like decade plus, no one has even have CFA level 1. So like, that's why when you told me you got it, I was like, there's no statistic for this, but you literally could be like one of 10 people because it's just so rare.
It's tough. It's tough.
And most people don't even know about it or even have like the motivation to go get it.
Yeah. And
maybe this is just a huge can of worms, but what makes this thing so hard? Is it graded on a curve? Is it just like required?
No, they give you a stack of books that's literally thousands of pages, and it's not easy work. It's not undergraduate level. It's graduate level work. A lot of it, not everything, but it's very complicated. And they ask the questions. I don't want to say deceitful, but they ask the questions in a way that it's very easy to get the wrong answer if you don't really know the material. It's very easy to get the wrong answer. And like level one, it's
There's
multiple
some like
choice.
crap they put in there.
Yeah.
to, like,
Level
trip
one's
you up.
multiple
You don't
choice,
really
which
know.
makes it even more amazing that, like 50% pass rate. There's only 3 choices and still only that many people pass. That's how tough these exams are. But like Jonathan said, there's a lot of people that have done them, 2-3 times, and nobody going into the CFA exam has, an average IQ. I would say people that try to take this on, they tend to have at least one standard deviation above the norm IQ. It's just not easy. It's just a very difficult process. And I used to have a blog, and this is one of the ways that helped me get through the CFA exam. I wanted a blog for 2 reasons. One, just to kind of hold myself accountable while I was doing the CFA program. And I have a funny story about the blog, by the way. But one, to hold myself accountable, and 2, it just kind of would broadcast to future employers like, hey, look, I'm doing this. This is my journey. I kind of left a lot of breadcrumbs, like this is what I've been doing for the last 3 years before I got out of the military. So it kind of 2 purposes there. So I'll tell you my funny story about the blog, and it was kind of scary actually. So after the military, after I got the employment, I stopped doing anything with the blog because I wasn't even sure if I was allowed to with Bank of America. I'm pretty sure I'm not. That's not a good idea when you're, they don't want you to do stuff outside of Bank of America. So I just kind of let it sit there. And then one day it came up like, hey, do you want to renew your domain name? And I won't give it to you. And I'm like, no, I don't want to renew my domain. Why would I want to pay money for this blog? I don't do anything with it anymore. That was a big mistake. So my blog was actually, it wasn't like hugely popular, but it would get, depending on the month, but on average, it would get 500 to 700 people a month, looking at it, which is quite a few people. And when you give up a domain name, people can see that there's traffic going to it, and somebody bought it and they turned it into a porn site. And
Oh no.
yes. And so I was panicked, because I have hundreds of resumes out there with this blog address on there. and Bank of America, and I still have this web address on my profile with Bank of America, and I can't figure out how to get it off. There's apparently no way, because when they first hire you, they take your resume and just put all your stuff on this profile. And there's this web address, and I was scared to death that, luckily they're not using it anymore, because I'm pretty sure like the people that would go visit my website weren't looking for porn. They were looking for CFA stuff, financial advice. So yeah, good lesson. So
go
ahead.
Double entendre or anything that you thought would have been even remotely?
No, not even.
Okay, wow.
No, I was stunned. It didn't make any sense. The only reason they grabbed it was because it got traffic. And
Sure.
Yeah, big lesson. So if you ever have a website, just go ahead and keep it forever. Even if you don't put anything on it, you can let it die, but just keep buying the domain name. You don't want to end up like I was. I was scared to death, like somebody's going to click on that on a work computer at that, But luckily it's dead now, completely dead. So
That's scary.
yeah, so we're good now.
That is an amazing story. And it's funny because all of your stories, I have like a counter story to it. So I did the same thing as you in the sense of, well, I took the CFA because I was just interested in finance. But for me, it was more about the analysis of companies and like reading 10Ks. So I was always interested in Amazon and e-commerce. So I registered a domain name. It was something like Amazon analysis, but like it was a really good domain name. And you were like, no, because back in now we're in 2021, but like back in like 2011, 2012, you could get a lot more domain names, right? Not everyone's trying to get domain names. So I got something like really amazing, Amazon analyst. And then what I did was I was in this really good class by Demodarin, that's his last name. He's like this famous valuation professor.
Yeah.
He taught us how to do
I know who he is.
Exactly. I still read his stuff. So I did this whole analysis on Amazon, and then people started reading it. And then I got like an interview for a summer internship. I didn't pass. I didn't get the job ultimately, which ended up being a good thing. But I think I tell all my students in UC Irvine now to make content. And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we're making content now. That's what we're doing, right? So
Right.
because it just pays dividends if it goes well. If not, we're learning so much. Like Jimmy's making all these new YouTube thumbnails. Jimmy was working on some like extra titles. Austin reviews like all of the podcasts and videos and tries to find like the best soundbite. It's really cool. Like making good podcasts and videos is a craft. So
Yes.
It's super enjoyable. But anyways, back to you. So yeah, let's talk about investment management
Sure.
or portfolio management, because I'm really interested in that topic as well. So my question to you is this: what is your personal philosophy on this topic? I'll give you an example. Some people say only do Vanguard index funds, passive investment only. Like, what do you do personally, and what do you recommend to, let's say, your family?
Okay. So for my clients, it doesn't matter what I want. The client has money's kind of like religion or politics. I deal with high net worth clients, so it's not like they know nothing about markets most of the time. They usually have some pretty strong opinions. They often have a portfolio already, and I kind of have to work with what they have, because of things like capital gains and different things like that. So, I mean, it matters what I think, but what they have really drives a lot of the investment decisions. If I was advising family, passive investing Vanguard funds are great. They're great. BlackRock funds are great too. These ETF, these index funds, they're great invention, good vehicle, better than mutual funds for most people. You can put money in there and you don't have to worry about it. And they don't have tax consequences like mutual funds do a lot of times and stuff. So it's a perfect vehicle for somebody that's not wanting to do a lot of work under the surface, so to speak. So it just depends on who the person is. Some people, they're a lot more interested in it. They want to get a lot more in depth and get a little more granular with things. So it just depends on the individual, John. There's no one size fits all for this. Everybody's a little bit different. Your portfolio is going to be different from Veronica's. And if I had you guys as clients, you guys would be managed totally differently.
Okay. So let me tell you what I've been doing, and just want to hear your opinion, because
It's all an elaborate ruse.
Yeah, this is my way to get some free, analysis. So it's funny because when we were in the military, we had something called a thrift savings plan.
Yes.
And I didn't realize it, but we put in like X% of our paycheck into it, our meager paychecks from the military. But over the course of like 10, 15 years, that sucker grows.
Yes.
And it sounds so corny, but time really matters, right? Compound interest for money. So I've basically passive invested my whole life up until maybe like 2 years ago when I got a little itch. And I'll take it back. It kind of started like right before COVID. And I said, you know what? A year prior to COVID, I said, I'll invest like 5 stocks a year. And I invest in things I know. So it was like tech and high growth.
Right.
And well, guess what? That just did well over the last like 5 years. And then COVID happened, and whether I got lucky or my intuition was, when there was a huge drop in the S&P 500, I just bought a bunch of other like tech stocks or like Netflix and Disney. Yeah. And after like 2 months, they went gangbusters. Yeah. But then I started to just sell them because, I didn't have the long-term mindset. And that is what really screwed me in the last 12 months, because I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I could try to make a quick buck in, like a few months, because things were not normal. The volatility was too high in the last 12 months. Right. And I think that's what's really happened. That's what's really like screwing up like young men, essentially, because young men love to gamble. They have a higher propensity to gamble. Then you have Robinhood. And I heard 50% of Robinhood's revenues from options trading. So like, it's just crazy. So now I decided to stop myself. I'm going to get a mortgage. I'm going to get a mortgage so I don't go do some degenerate gambling and some other crazy stock. And anyways, that's my financial plan for myself now. So
Passive investing is probably a good option for you. You have, well, I mean, you have so this is what I work with a lot of clients too. And you're not unlike, a lot of clients I have here in St. Louis. You're out in California, and what we see, across the private bank is clients on the West Coast have a proclivity towards tech stocks. They invest in tech. Clients in the Midwest, where I'm at in St. Louis, have a lot of industrial stocks, Emerson's, all these big industrial companies here in the Midwest, the Caterpillar, Deere, they can't get enough of that stuff because that's what they know and understand. That's that's what they see. That's where daddy worked. That's where, that's what they know and understand. So you have that bias too, just from being out in California and your current employment and where you've worked before. That's what you know and understand, which isn't necessarily a bad way to invest, but it definitely creates a lopsided portfolio. So I wouldn't say don't dabble in that, but don't put all your eggs in that technology basket. I would definitely stick with passive investing as like your base. And then, if you're interested in it, you're interested in it. There's nothing wrong with, dabbling a little bit outside of that, but you don't want to get a portfolio. So I'll give you an example. So I have one client, they came to us, they invested $4,000 in Microsoft in 1987. Okay. They sold some of it over the years, put kids through college and things like that. And they still ended up with about $4 million. So here you have yeah, exactly. That's long-term investing, right? But that's a dangerous portfolio. I don't think anything's going to happen to Microsoft, but if you would have talked to me 3 years ago, I would have thought Boeing was a great investment too. Obviously there was a problem at Boeing. Things happen with these one company things. So we had to manage that. We didn't, basically he had it for free. It's all capital gains, like 99.9% of it. So what we did was we put it in an exchange fund. So what an exchange fund is they take individuals like him who have these huge positions, they pool the money in a fund, they borrow money against it and invest 20% of the value of the portfolio in real estate so they can use the 1031 tax exchange rules. And now he has a portfolio that looks like the S&P 500 with a little bit of real estate. So that's how we got around that. So, that's one of the things I like about the private bank is we have access to some pretty cool investment vehicles to help. And like I said, what I do is I help people. He had all this stock in Microsoft, and, when you have that much Microsoft, if it moves 4% one way or the other, that can be painful or very happy. So he was kind of tired of the roller coaster. So
there was something you were saying before when you said, money is like religion, money is like politics, and money is really individual. John's plan is going to be different than mine. And it's also super personal. I wonder how much do you feel you're sort of an intimate part of your clients' lives? Kind of like a consigliere.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Some more than others. Quite honestly, I have some clients I've never even spoken to. There's a few, and they just don't want to talk. I write them a nice letter and I send it to them, and then they'll sign whatever I need them to sign and send it back. I've spoken to this particular one I'm thinking of. I've spoken to her daughters, and I ask them about it, and they just laugh. They're like, "Oh, that's just how she is. She's never going to talk to you. She doesn't want to." But okay, you got like $20 million over here. You maybe pick up the phone. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, it's very personal for them. And there's a lot of, when I first came in, I had the academic background, and one of my first lessons was I worked with this guy. He was really my mentor at the private bank. And, he gave me this project. He's like, look at this portfolio. Tell me what you would do. What do you think we should do with it? So, I took the portfolio, I put it on a spreadsheet. I ran correlations. I did all kinds of math. I improved it. I looked at capital gain, did all, everything that you're supposed to do A through Z. And I came to him with this big old thing. And I'm like, here's what we should do. I got capital gains down to this much. It's not much, but it improves the risk to the portfolio. It reduces it by, whatever it was like 50% or something. And he's like, oh, this is great. He's like, except the client's 92 years old and she's only got a few months to live. Do you really think we should, start moving things around? How much stress do you think that's going to put on her? She's going to get a step up in cost basis. I'm like, oh, they don't really talk about that in the CFA, the human part of it. Like there's a lot of stuff that, and that's really where my Army training came in. Like, it's first and foremost, if you want to do this, you have to like humans. And you have to understand what motivates them and what they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, some good lessons there at the early start of my career.
Well, and do you see yourself, I feel like some things we talk about in addition to the craft itself is kind of career journeys and career development. And do you see yourself doing this for the long haul? Is this still satisfying? It
is. It's in, I do something different every day. And every client's different. Some of them are more fun than others, obviously, but that's with anything. But no, I really like it. It's very challenging. It's, it's something that I'm never, I know one of the questions you're going to ask me, but the answer is you're never going to master this. There's never one correct 100% right answer. Because it might be good today, but it might change in 6 months, depending on client circumstances or, how the client feels about things or what the circumstances in the economy are, or what laws might be changing. You're on shifting sand and there's just 1,000 things coming your direction. So it's exciting. It's challenging. It's very rewarding. But yeah, I love it,
Cool.
And John just chatted us, so we all looked over
No,
there.
I'm trying to find the original email we're talking about, and it's crazy. It's like 2012. I literally just sent you a little note. That was it. And that's the thing. And it's funny because I didn't say oh, you have to go get it. I was just like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Go, you should do it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is, what's funny was today,
I love this
someone reached out to me at Facebook and they just wanted some advice.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was a former UCI student who was working at Facebook. And, it was a 20-minute conversation. I have no idea what impact I could have given him. Maybe it's neutral or nothing, or maybe, minor positive impact. But you never know, even one sentence or a paragraph can really change someone. Because my point is, you made it seem like I helped you a lot, but I think I just sent this and maybe a few other notes, but nothing this is the link you go to, this is how you read. I didn't do any of that. I think you took the idea and you just ran with it.
I did. But you definitely set me on this course. This is all your fault, but thank you for it.
Oh, this is good. I still sometimes I'm just you know what? If I retire and have nothing to do, I'm gonna go get it. Because I'm genuinely interested in it, even though I know it's academic. I want to get it.
Yeah. So funny story. I actually just got the certificate, the CFA, in the mail yesterday. And because when I took the exams, you needed 4 years of experience. And silly me for not checking with the website all the time. I set a little thing on my calendar, hey, here's when you can apply, because this is when you get your 4 years experience. They changed it to 3 years experience. So here I am, dummy, not checking up on things. I could have got it a year ago, but but I have it now. So I just needed the experience.
Now I know when you say funny story, to brace for something that's actually kind of painful and scary and unpleasant for you. Noted. Funny story.
Funny stories are always painful. Yeah. Life lessons. Yeah.
So I have a follow-up on back to our main topic, which is what is the minimum net worth required to join any private bank?
Mhm.
What are the categories? Because you mentioned high net worth, ultra high net worth. Maybe different banks have different definitions, but what have you seen?
So I can tell you what we look for. So typically we want a client with $3 million or more in assets. But we do make exceptions. We'll take if there's potential for the client to get to that in a certain amount of time. Because a lot of times there's a client who might be selling a business. They might not have much in liquid assets now, but they own a business that they might sell for, millions of dollars in the next couple of years or something like that. Or maybe they're an executive or somebody's going to retire and they're going to roll their 401k over and they might have millions of dollars in that. So, and then sometimes we'll even make another exception if there's like a center of influence that we just want at the private bank because they're connected to other people that we'd like to talk to. I'm probably not supposed to say that, but there are some exceptions. Yeah.
Don't worry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I think it's safe, but typically we want to see $3 million in assets at the private bank. But I have clients that my smallest client is it's an estate and it's worth $135, and my largest client is it's a large trust and it's about $88 million. So, and I have 54 relationships. So, and I manage about $375 million. So, everything in between there. The small $135, I'm sure you're curious about that. So it's an estate. Somebody passed away. They had a bond with General Motors. General Motors went bankrupt, and we couldn't close the account. We had to hold this bond on our system until the last judge hit the gavel and said, "This is what it's worth. This is what they're," So it was just kind of a legal thing where we're kind of holding on to this until whatever is going to be paid out is going to be paid out from all the bankruptcy proceedings from, more than 10 years ago now at this point.
That is interesting. Quick follow-up, which is, I've got people pinging me on LinkedIn all the time for, private wealth management, even though I don't, they just think because I worked at Amazon and Facebook, I must be rich. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm just probably just like above average. But one thing I did notice once I started my job at Facebook, one thing that Facebook frankly does super well with benefits is that, you get your standard stuff, 401k, like paternity leave, et cetera, et cetera. Those are great. I appreciate all those. But the thing I like the most, which has the lowest dollar amount value, is you can get accounting services from like Deloitte, not like
Nice.
like a mom and pop shop.
Right.
You could get legal services. There's like a range of options depending on what you pick, and you can get a financial advisor. So
Nice.
the thing is, I kind of treat this kind of like personal training, because I always say, you know what, I'm not gonna get a personal trainer, but then I'm still fat, right? So like the thing is, people just kind of know, like, you got to pay like experts. You don't need every expert, but when it's actually available to you and you get to use it, I'm like, wow, like I'm learning so much. Like I benefit so much. I'm trying to buy a house, and now I received a zip with 40 files. I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna call this lawyer tomorrow. I'm gonna ask him or her to go read it and tell me what to do.
Right.
Like if I had to read it myself, I would have like a brain aneurysm this weekend. And then another analogy, a blast from the past, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, is I feel like when I was in the military, there's certain, the military is like, the goal is that people should basically become like athletes, like athlete/warrior.
Yeah.
At least in our branch. And that just wasn't like my thing. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't know the basics of it. But I think what you were really good at is like nutrition and fitness, because you taught our platoon like essentially CrossFit. What's fascinating about CrossFit is at the time was like, it's just trying to just do workouts differently. It's not just like a push-ups or sit-ups or like weightlifting. It's like full body movements and things like that. So like, it's cool. Like, anyway, the analogy here is like, it's always cool, and like try to leverage as many people in your network with different expertise. And hopefully you all have your own craft and expertise coming back to this podcast. And then you can really like expand your circle and your kind of like effectiveness.
No, you're on the money there. And one of the things I run into with, prospect, even clients is, they've accumulated all this wealth and they're usually pretty smart people. A lot of them are like doctors and engineers and, they're smart people. They're really smart and they think they're smarter than me, and they might be, but they don't do this every day. You know what I mean? Like they would probably not appreciate trying to pass the CFA exam.
Or
It's
they're not in a
difficult.
position in their lives where they're taking a lot of orders. Maybe they're giving a lot of orders.
Exactly, that too. And they've accumulated this wealth, so they obviously know what they're doing. And so, but what I can do is maybe marginally better, a little more efficient. I can suck some of that risk out of that portfolio for them, help them, instead of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, it can be more like It's a Small World and we can get there, with a little less scariness. But yeah, I think you're right. You want to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing. That's critical because it's too easy. If you're smart, it's too easy to say I can figure this out, but can you really figure it out? Do you really know? Do you have 10 years of experience? Did you go to school and to be a doctor? You really going to try to figure this out?